I should have clipped that. All right, I'm going to shut up. I was just going to turn this intro over to Jordan.
Oh, can I do my job now, Kelly? That'd be great.
Yeah, I know. Sorry. Go ahead.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to PDQ Live. Today we're talking about how do you handle CTOs or CIOs that are non-technical. Boy, this one, I'm glad Tara's here because my solution usually ends up with my termination. So we're actually going to get some good advice from some people. Tara's done a lot of research on this, so let's hand it over to her.
Yeah, this is definitely my area. Spent a long time as an IT manager, and this actually started, and I think Kelly's going to put this in the descriptions. This actually started off of a Reddit thread that had a lot of traction, a lot of comments. And if you haven't read this thread, it's very cathartic to just read through this. I think everybody will find a lot of information in there. So the basic gist is, why do executives love non-techie tech leaders, and why do they keep hiring them? Like, why? It just seems to continue. They'd love to hire people that look like them, that talk like them, that converse like them. They're their own little doppelgangers. That's not the term that I use, but I can't say the term that I use. It's not appropriate. But they're a similar ilk. And I'm convinced that, like, between 8 and 10 years ago, they all went to some CEO executive conference where they drink the Kool-Aid, and they all came up with this archetype: MBA, C-level, CTO, CIO, I swear, where they all say the same things, the same acronyms. They know just enough about technology to be dangerous, but they don't really understand technology. And then it was born. So we have to deal with them. So what's the solution? That's kind of what the webcast is going to be about today.
And we do have those links in the description. I've got the Reddit thread up there on the screen for you. That's what kind of spawned this whole idea. Is this thread went crazy? Mm-hmm. I mean, this is something that's, I think, quite common in the IT realm.
Yeah, I think it is, and I think it. I found this in the Reddit thread, actually, and there's a funny little slide that we made that I think is hilarious. So we used to always call them unicorns in my career, and I think this was the funniest ever quote I've ever seen to kind of describe an IT person who can also manage. Is finding a highly technically skilled person with good soft skills and actually wants to manage people is like finding a 3-headed unicorn. I think that's absolutely true, because most tech people don't want to be a manager. They just don't want to. So it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you don't want to be a manager, if you don't have the soft skills, if you don't have the social, emotional skill sets to manage people, well, what are the executives supposed to do? They're going to look to externally hire these tech leaders. So you're going to be continually met with this problem, right? That's just the bottom line. Tech people are tech people because they like to do tech. They don't like to manage.
Yeah.
And when you talk about a 3-headed unicorn, it's like you can't actually be good at everything. So if you wanted to go that direction, you're going to have to be sacrificing technical skills if you wanted to become a manager, right? You cannot be the best at everything. These are different skills.
Well, yeah, if you decide to become a tech leader, you're actually saying to yourself, well, I'm not going to be the best at technology anymore. And a lot of people in tech don't want to do that. They don't want to say, oh, I'm not the best sysadmin anymore, because I think, 6 months to a year, your tech skills are obsolete. If you're out of the game, you're rusty.
I'm going to plant my flag on a claim here, and that is non-technical managers can be effective and good managers for IT, but it requires a specific skill set on top of it. They have to have a team they can trust, and they know when to listen. Which I think the issue is not just non-technical; it's non-technical that doesn't want to take advice from the people that are.
I agree with that. So I think I actually just want to tell you this. I was a manager for many years before I ever went into technology. So I came in technology with an already set of managerial skills already in place. So I kind of had both when I started. So I think I'm atypical that way. And I like people. I'm friendly. I'm a weirdo that way. I'm a typical tech person. But I think the majority of tech people, they are not that way. So the C-suite and IT people kind of have this lack of communication because they don't understand each other. Executives don't understand technology, and IT people typically don't want to speak to executives. So you're going to have that language barrier, right? One thing begets the other.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I think that having an IT leader that understands the role that IT plays in bringing business to the or money to the business is very important. And that is a pretty challenging thing to hire for and to find. So there's going to have to be some kind of collaboration to ensure that the people who are actually hands-on with the systems are communicating to the people who are dictating the high-level strategy and where the budgets are going. Like there has to be an understanding of the goal of IT in the business.
Yeah, it's almost like they have to be bilingual. You know what I mean? Because they have to be able to talk with the CEO. They have to understand business and talk business. But ideally, they have to have at least some basic fluency in IT. And it is kind of a unicorn position sometimes.
Yeah, I think that the IT a lot of times gets seen as a service center rather than a business partner. And when they get relegated to that area or that arena, executives aren't going to award them the same level as other departments. And that's a position that you don't want to be in because you're not being fairly represented at that point, right? So how do you get out of that service support center and into a business partner? Well, you need to speak their same language. You need to use the terminology that they can understand, the MBA doppelganger language, right? You need to find a way to stop saying no to the C level because unfortunately IT has to say no, and for good reason sometimes. So start finding ways to say yes. Yes, I'm happy to do that ridiculous request you just asked me for. And here's how much it's going to ask. And here's how many additional staff members I'm going to need to fulfill your request.
See, this one right here is our biggest disagreement.
Yes.
As we found yesterday. Because my view on that is if you say, yes, we can do it, here's what it's going to cost. They're going to just accept the cost. And when it fails like it will, they're not going to take the blame.
No, that's true.
That's gonna roll right to you. So I'm more comfortable just saying no, but I'm also of the belief that I can make money anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, there is that risk. I mean, I think another way that you could phrase that is, you could explain, look, I would recommend against it because of A, B, C, and D. If you decide you still want to go through with it, here's what it's going to cost, because a lot of times those business, when you put it in business terms, that can be more of a deterrent than just saying, no, technically it's not good, because they may not understand that. It may go right over their head.
Yeah.
But at least you've tried to explain that. But again, Jordan, to your point, there are those times where they still power through it. I remember Lex, when he was here, talking about a situation he had when he was doing IT and was asked to do something that was ridiculous. And he said, that's a stupid idea. I don't want to do it. They forced it on him. He did it. A few years later, it came back to bite him in the butt. They went to Lex and said, why did we do this? And so they tried to pin it on him. Luckily, he could just point the finger and say, go talk to this guy. Yeah. But it is a risk for sure.
Lex was smart and he asked for it in writing.
Yes.
That's
right.
right.
You want it?
There's nothing more dangerous than if an IT person says, can I get that in an email?
Well, and and this is something that Jordan and I disagree on as well. I am always playing CYA no matter what, because I live in this realm, or I lived in this realm. I don't live here now, but I'm always playing CYA to cover myself, because that's how executives think.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, Paul in the chat. Oh, go ahead, Jordan. Sorry.
If someone in IT says, can I get that in writing, get that in an email, and you don't instantly get alarm bells or panic, then you're out of your depth and you should probably just walk away.
Well, that's the world that I lived in, so I'm always in that depth. I can write an FU email like nobody's business, man, because that's what I had to do. But I think that the reason that executives are outsourcing or hiring externally, because they want to hear yes. And unfortunately, although I believe Jordan is correct, they have these crazy ideas. It doesn't matter how logical your reasoning is with them. They're still going to have these crazy ideas.
Yeah.
So
I have a more nuanced approach where I think that maybe we strive for having a good relationship with that IT manager where we can give them our fair opinion and say, hey, I don't think this is a good idea for X, Y, and Z. It looks like some people have had issues with this long term, and also the cost doesn't seem worth it, blah, blah, blah. But if this is something that we really wanted to do, this is kind of what we would have to look into doing. And then it kind of makes it more of like a business decision, and they can feel empowered where they don't maybe understand the full technical situation, but they can see that, oh, it's not just my employee saying no to me. It's actually like kind of a setting ourselves up for failure if we go down this route kind of thing, because it's in our best interest to be heard and not invested in crappy projects that are going to fail.
Yeah.
yes, exactly.
I think there's a couple of comments in the chat. Bill has one. He said, we made a conscious switch years ago from being the no department to being the yes and here's how department. Again, that's taking the providing solutions approach, which can be effective. And then Alexander, I get upset when someone only wants to talk on the phone. Is 2023, give me this in writing.
Yes.
There is something to be said about that paper trail for sure.
Yes, exactly. So here's my question to everybody, and I'm interested to hear people in the chat. Who is interested in being a tech leader? Who wants to be a manager, and who wants to just keep doing tech?
Sounds like the next game show. Who wants to be a manager?
Yes.
I think my stance is pretty clear on this one.
Yeah, reiterate that, Jordan.
Yeah, tell us, Jordan.
I will quit. If you say you have to manage anybody, I will quit. In fact, if you're looking for a quick way, you can't find cause to fire me, which would be ridiculous. I give you plenty of cause. Just make me management and I'll get out.
I'm willing to step up and manage you guys. I know a lot about tech.
Okay, but
I know about the network closets. And
oh yeah, show that one, Kelly. This was one of my favorite things I saw in the thread. It was hilarious.
My current manager asked me a couple of weeks ago if we could tear all the network closets out of our building because they look ugly.
Oh my gosh.
I love that one.
Purpose those closets for some more, meaningful storage.
Yeah, we don't
possibly.
need those. We don't
It's not
need
even
those.
that bad of a cabinet.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it's sure. I think the closet is actually uglier than the cabinet itself. But
Yeah.
This brings up other questions. Like, this is non-technical. Does he have a badge and walks into the closet for reasons nobody knows? Or is it just open and anyone can access their network?
Yeah, was that part of the thread?
Yeah.
That's an issue.
If anyone could just walk in there, then you might as well tear it out because that's not safe.
Well, if that person's the CTO, they probably have keys to everything.
That's true.
I would imagine.
What if it's in like a lunchroom or something?
No, they never have a lunchroom.
Now, Alexander brings up a really, no, it was Mike. No, who was it? Yeah, Alexander. I'd rather mentor than lead.
Yeah, and I think that's typical. There seems to be a fear of leading and not wanting to manage and hire and fire and deal with all the headache of managing.
The meetings.
And
The meetings.
that's certainly what I found in the thread as well, as many people who have the tech skills were happy to show people how to do things, but didn't have an interest in managing. So then that brings another question to the table is what then are executives to do? If they don't have a hiring pool in their IT departments, where do they find these leaders? I think that's a good question.
That's when they have to start going outside.
Yeah.
And that's when you open the door to bringing in folks that may not have the depth of technical knowledge that you hope they have. And you also introduce more change, which could be good, could be bad. If you bring someone up internally, they're familiar with your current processes. They're already integrated in the system. Someone from outside could bring some disruption with them. And so, and it's always a little more disconcerting when you have a complete outsider come in and taking over your department. It's like, okay, how do we navigate this now? But sometimes it's necessary because like we're seeing here, a lot of people would rather mentor and continue to do tech because that's what they got into it for, is to do the tech, not to manage necessarily.
But I think the comments in the chat are really giving more evidence to what was in the Reddit thread is, yeah, of course, tech people don't seem to want to be leaders. So of course we're seeing this phenomenon over and over again.
I think an aspect of this ties back to what we talked about earlier of like IT leaders not being empowered. Why would someone want to, in a company where the culture is not good, fill the role where so many other people have gone before? They know that they don't have the resources to do it appropriately. It's super stressful. They get burnt out. Like if organizations had a healthier culture that was showing like, oh, hey, these managers, maybe like you said, came from within and are successful and they're bought into the long-term well-being of the company. Because if you have people kind of constantly in and out kind of thing and no one connected to a long-term vision, it can be hard to make actual change. With a lot of these complex situations where you're talking solving business problems and communication between teams, it's challenging stuff.
Well, I think it's, like a lot of things in life, there has to be the pioneers who are willing to go and do the hard work and make the change for everybody. But who wants to do that? That's really the question. So I guess what I'd say is to those who are interested in that, my personal belief is you can change. You can make a difference. I certainly believe you can. You have to learn the soft skills, which is people probably don't want to hear that, but that I think is the key. You have to learn to interact with humans.
It's all about being comfortable, being uncomfortable.
Yeah,
That's
could
it.
be. Yeah.
So we've covered a lot of the how we got there, but the next part of like how do you handle it? So in many cases, it's the soft skills, and if they're open to it. We had a user in the pre-show that said they got praise for their work during the pandemic and work from home, and then they're bringing in new leadership and not giving any input to the IT people.
Yes.
I don't think there's any amount of soft skills there. That to me is a clear sign that there's going to be significant turnover soon.
Well, there seems to be something, and I swear it's that same meeting I told you about with the Kool-Aid and the leaders all go to this Illuminati conference. They really love external consultants. And I have yet to figure this out. A $20,000 a month external consultant carries more weight than a 20-year IT director. It's the weirdest thing. They will just listen to them over everything else. And I think a lot of things in IT are cyclical, and this is like another example of 10 years ago, we need to outsource. We're spending too much money on staffing. We're spending too much money on benefits. We should just outsource the whole IT department. I think that's a great idea. Let's get on that. And then, you panic.
It's like so many complex problems in the world where people look for the quick fix when in reality, it's hard. It's going to take a vision and it's going to take mistakes and a lot of challenging things to kind of get where you need to go. But or you could just pay this company and they say they're going to do it, but they're not bought into that vision like your employees might be if you had that going on.
Yeah, but I think it takes a strong leader to tell C-level that's a horrible idea and here's why, and let me provide you some research as to why we shouldn't do that. And then in 5 more years they're going to come to you and say the exact same thing.
Yeah, to me, consultants aren't for use in we're just looking to make a change. It's if you're going into a new area that you've spoke your IT and they don't have expertise. Like we had a guest, David Das Nevis, whose entire thing is security when you're moving over to the cloud. And so he helps a lot of things like building out the infrastructure to make sure that you have the right thing, as well as proper teams to make sure you have the code testing. There's a lot of IT departments that don't have that skill set. So bringing in a consultant to build up your team, well worth the money. Bringing a consultant to tell you that we're changing things when they have no insight is wasted money.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. But I think now that we're past COVID, I anticipate this outsourcing will reemerge, and we're going to hear more about that. I have a feeling that's coming. But so as far as advice, if you are someone who's interested in becoming a tech leader for whatever reason, you do get more money. These positions pay higher. Yes, it is more frustrating. That is absolutely true. But the soft skills, there's lots of free training available that you can take advantage of. So Kelly's going to put those sites in the description. So definitely, why not? It's free. You can do it online. Nobody will even know you're doing it. You don't even have to talk to real humans, but practice with them. See if it's palatable for you. The other thing that seems to be really loved by executives is an MBA. Really learn the lingo, learn how to interface with the C-suite on their own level, learn how to make IT a business partner. If it's something that you're very serious about, they absolutely love that. So get yourself a seat at the table. And another thing that I saw over and over again when I was researching for this is use analogies. When you're speaking to executives in particular, nobody likes to feel stupid. And IT is already showing the whole company how to do their job. And hits pride in people, right? So if you're talking to an executive who already makes a lot more than you do, and you don't want to make them feel stupid, so try to use analogies when you're explaining high-level technical terms to them. Use something that they can understand to get buy-in from them. You'll find a lot more cooperation if you can get them to understand what you're saying to them. That's a great tool.
That is
You're seeing, yeah, and you're seeing a lot of buy-in in the chat using analogies as well.
So I've actually come up with an analogy. We're talking about this. When I'm talking to the person, I'll just say something like, "Let's imagine that you're an idiot, and you should just listen to what I say."
That's a good one.
Does that work?
I've always wished I could use that one.
Jordan, you're already
for
there.
you.
You were already there.
Anytime
Okay.
Anytime we bring up soft skills, I like to highlight that these are skills that can be improved. Like, it's a proven thing. It's not like wherever you are, you haven't been a historically good social person, you can't get better and improve. Exactly the opposite. These are skills that can be improved.
Yeah. And Andrew, I was actually going to kind of throw you into this because you've got a particular skill set in teaching soft skills to other IT people. Now, we've talked about learning soft skills if your kind of career trajectory is moving toward management. But I think, honestly, these soft skills are equally, if not more useful in those non-managerial positions, in learning how to most effectively not just interact with, the everyday employee, but interact with your supervisor or the CTO, the CIO.
Empower your teammates,
there
start,
you go.
Lead changes, work with different teams and get them to start collaborating in a way they haven't before. These are huge impacts. Being able to communicate the impact that you're having at work, because if you do work and no one sees it, that's not a good thing. You should try and make your work visible. All these things contribute to the reasons why people who have better soft skills tend to make more money. Like, it's just worth it in so many different ways.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of dislike the phrase managing up, but it's a real thing. And in my career, that's an area that I am not especially good at, managing up. I enjoy interacting with my team and working with them, but when it comes to managing upward, I'm terrible at it. I really am, but it's a skill, Andrew, like you're saying, that it's important, not just for your own progression, but really to help the team out, right?
Definitely. One person contributing just their efforts is great, but if you can have that person empowering other people, force multiplying, so to speak, that's a much more impactful situation.
Yeah, I think using your team is a great way to do a couple of things. Teaching someone something is a wonderful way to reinforce, do you yourself know that subject? Like Alexander said in the chat, can you explain DNS to a 10-year-old? Like, teach someone something that you know. Another thing I love to suggest to people is find yourself a mentor to help you work on the things that you know you're weak in. And then in turn, you can mentor them on something that you're weak in. And just that relationship can help both of you. Or if you're wanting to go into leadership and you know that you're weak in business, seek out someone that you know either in your corporate life or your personal life that can help you excel in that area. So if you are wanting to move up, find someone who can help you do that and make it a safe environment where it's okay for you to fail. Everyone's going to fail. It's okay. Find that safe environment.
Yeah, it's so important to get external feedback. You can't just do it by yourself, I mean, you could try for a while, but it's just so much easier and more efficient to get someone else in your corner.
Yeah. And you can work on those de-escalation techniques. Like, how do you handle those hard situations that you undoubtedly are going to face as you manage up, as Kelly said, as you're interfacing with the C-level, you're going to have those more challenging conversations where you can't slam the door and say, don't talk to me. You just unfortunately can't use that kind of verbiage when you're interfacing there. You need to learn to de-escalate those conversations and interface in a more professional manner.
Mhm.
And it can be uncomfortable. So find someone who can work with you to hone those skills. I'm a big fan of mentorship.
Yeah.
Couple great comments. One from Bill in the chat. We have to manage up, but as the desktop manager, my main job is to provide support for my team. I'm their boss, but I work for them much more than they do for me, which I understand that. Marcel, this is one that is so important to learn. You learn from failure.
Yeah.
We've kind of got a philosophy here that if we're not failing with some things, we're probably not trying enough stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer in, try it, evaluate it, and then learn from it, and change as you move forward. But you are going to fail in things. You just will.
And I think, sorry, go ahead.
To Bill's comment, I think that what Bill's doing as a good manager is empowering his team. And you'll notice that good leaders in all different places, whether it's IT or otherwise, they will try to empower their employees to do what they're paid to do. So good on you, Bill.
Yeah, and I think one of the signatures of a good leader is you trust your people and you have their back no matter what. And you will be surprised at how much they will do for you if that is there, if you have that mutual respect, especially when you're managing tech people. They really don't need to be told what to do. They're very smart people. They're very logical people. And they are one of the first people to call BS on something. It's very interesting to watch them. They're incredibly logical. And if you have that trust and that mutual respect, they will tell you, hey, that's stupid. I don't like this, and here's why. And if you have that good communication, and as long as they continue to talk to you, you're doing something right. But they can also be problematic for executives. They're like, why do they keep complaining about this? Well, because it's stupid.
It's a dumb idea.
That's why.
What do you think?
So along this vein highlights my being unfit for management is I've always been very clear. If you ask me if I can do something, the answer is yes, and I'll do it. If you ask me if I should do something, I have no idea.
Yeah, it's a finesse for sure.
Yeah.
You got to be kind of careful on how much trust you place into your coworkers or employees too, because I've been in a situation where I thought I could really trust some of my more techie people in situations, and I'm more AV, so I've had a bunch of shows going on where I couldn't handle all clients at once. And if you ask somebody that's extremely techie in that kind of way, like a computer brain, to go and handle a client in a, hopefully they're doing it in a nice way, but I've definitely had some situations where I really, really, really wished I didn't ask them to handle that client, because just some reactions you get out of some techie people to a lot of regular untechie people can be very clashing. And, that's always a weird line.
It is. And I think that's what I'm going to go back to, the mutual respect. My personal opinion is this. You do not need to be highly technical to manage technical people. Does it help? Yes, it definitely helps. I think that you need to trust them. You need to have that mutual respect. That's the most important thing, in my opinion. But if you take care of them, they will take care of you. You have to listen, though. That's the most important thing, in my opinion.
The less technical a manager is, the more critical it is that they have honest people working for them.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. That's a great
And
point.
I think that even if you're not technical, you need to be smart in the sense that you need to be able to understand the whole system of the business and what IT does in it. Not every single aspect of it, but by and large, the larger concepts of like, hey, here's an application that we support that provides this and that for this other department. Like, they need to be able to think in that kind of business structure systems type way.
Yeah.
Or at least be willing to be trained that way.
And we do have one question. Who is the CTO at PDQ, and how does he do?
So I saw when this question came up, and it says a lot about me that I have no idea I couldn't care
Well, hey,
less.
I just found out yesterday Josh is called the director of operations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's, we don't have, there is no one at PDQ who is
That called
technically,
that.
designated the CTO. We do have, kind of a vice president of engineering and development. And so those duties are split. And then, you've got Josh who handles, the internal IT and facilities in his team. So we don't have one individual that has that title. It's really kind of split between 2 or 3 different folks.
But they all know everything.
They do. They're all knowing.
Yes.
It's
Josh is the dream we're talking about. He's more technical than any of us, and he does a good job managing people. That's
He's great at it.
Josh is that 3-headed unicorn.
Yeah,
It's
he
kind of
really
helpful
is.
to have that at a technical company, a
Yeah.
company that revolves around tech, that builds tech for other tech people. So
Yes.
I don't think we would be where we are without
Yeah.
someone who what's the opposite of inept?
Highly
Yeah.
competent.
He's Josh is very apt.
He's
It's
very
adept, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, even the president though is very techie and a fantastic manager. So we're lucky.
We are. We have some really good managers, some very good technical people. I mean, we are.
let's not lie to Jaron in a recording.
We're a very unusual
Yeah,
company
we've
with the
just
type of people that
documented
we
this.
have.
Am I managing up well right now?
Right.
You guys are the best.
That's the way
No,
to
but I
do it.
really do mean it.
No,
We
but
have
in
great
reality,
people.
I saw Dan. So Dan's the CEO, right?
Yeah.
He was at Austin. He's the network guy trying to learn networking one day.
Oh yeah,
I was stunned.
Dan digs into it.
Yeah, he
As a
digs
good
into it.
leader would, right? They
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
really understand what's going on, and you can't just fake it, right? If you're
No.
actually going to do it, you have to actually do it. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's really cool to see, though. I'll say, from my perspective,
Mhm.
to see people really out there leading. It's cool.
Mhm. No, I was impressed.
Any final thoughts that we have?
Get better at talking, people.
Okay.
No.
There are no thoughts.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. I know I probably wasn't a lot of help on this one. This is definitely outside of my skill set. Anything comes to soft skills, but we have a lot of excellent soft skills here. Hopefully, they gave you at least a starting point on how you can start communicating with a CTO that might need a little bit of help understanding the technical scope of your job. For PDQ, I'm Jordan.
I'm Tara.
That's
We're here too.
other people. And now I'm going to give you a really outdated outro. So bye-bye. Thank you for being a part of our webcast today. If you had questions that we were not able to get to today, feel free to reach out to our support forums. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you back here next week.